Hello everybody. For today's video, I wanted to just do an updated ammo comparison video. I've bought a lot of new calibers since the last time I did a video like this, so I hope you all enjoy, and probably a year from now or whenever I buy even more calibers, I can always redo this video again until I own every single caliber there is, which is that's kind of my goal. I know that's kind of unrealistic, but I feel like that would be a pretty cool thing to go for. So, starting off here in my smallest caliber, and yes, my surface does roll a little bit, but we'll make it work. And this is the 22 short. Now, I don't know, any 22 long rifle can shoot 22 short. However, outside of the North American Arms that I own, I don't know any other guns that actually shoot 22 short, like specifically. That's the only caliber they fire. It's a very small gun for a very small cartridge, and I think this video will get pretty funny when we compare that to the 50 BMG. But next up on my list here is a caliber that everyone's at least heard of at this point, let's be honest. That is 22 long rifle. Again, they're the same, between the two, they're the same thickness. Obviously the 22 long rifle is just longer. At this point there's lever actions that shoot 22 long rifle, there's rifles, handguns, I mean pretty much any platform you can imagine will shoot the 22 long rifle. While we're on the topic of these long skinny cartridges, I thought I would put this guy up. This right here, if he'll stay, maybe he will, maybe he won't. Yeah, good enough. Is a 5.7 by 28. A lot of people, the gun you probably think of is like a P90 that the Secret Service uses. It is a very small but very fast moving cartridge. I'm putting this with the handguns. I'm going to do all the handgun calibers first and then the rifles. I'm putting this with handguns is because traditionally there's like the Ruger, the FN, even Palmetto has a Rock 5.7 now. There's a lot of 5.7 handgun platforms, so I'm putting that with the handguns. There is rifles that shoot it, but I'm just putting it with the handguns just because it fits better there. Obviously, like the rifle rounds are going to be huge, and then to have a little tiny 5.7 there just didn't make sense to me. But majority of the guns I think of are handguns. Next up, we have 32 Auto, or 32 ACP. A lot of people are familiar with 45 ACP. Come on, you can focus. I believe in you. Or maybe it won't focus. Does my hand have to be okay? A lot of people are familiar with 45 ACP, however they don't know about 25 and 32 ACP. I'm on the lookout for a 25 ACP right now. Myself, maybe it will focus if I take my hand up. Maybe it won't. Who knows? 32 ACP is a very, very fun round. They don't really make a whole lot of guns in them anymore. Kind of like the 30 Super Carry. It's a round that it was popular. I have a Zastava M80 or M70, excuse me, from the 80s, and they don't really. It was popular at one point, but they don't really make it at 32s anymore. It is an extremely fun caliber to shoot, though. I mean, hardly any recoil, to be honest. Just overall very fun. I wish they would make more guns in this caliber, but like I said, they're just, it's not, nowadays they really don't. So it kind of got left in the dust. While we're still on the topic of 32, this is 32 Smith & Wesson Long. It is a caliber that I love to talk about on this channel just because this is one of those calibers I went into the gun store. I did not know it existed at all, and the only reason I own it is because it was in the gun and the ammo was in the gun store. So maybe it'll focus eventually. I don't know. Maybe I need more rounds on the table. It's very fun. I have an old H&R revolver that shoots .32 Smith & Wesson long. Like I said, very fun cartridge to shoot. The gun's also enjoyable. I highly doubt that they make any guns in this caliber anymore, and I doubt they ever will. 32, they like 32 ACP. They might still make some guns. I think Beretta still has one that they're making. I strongly doubt this will ever get a cartridge or a new gun ever again. Next up is, we're getting a little chunkier here. That is 380. I feel like everyone pretty much knows 380. So what I'm gonna do is put a 9mm next to it and talk a little bit here, because in the gun world, I feel like it's a good, healthy debates. Nobody's out here like gonna pick a fist fight with someone over versus 380 versus 9mm. As you can see, 380 is a little smaller, and it's sometimes often referred to as 9 short. With these two calibers, if you're anyone who's been around the gun world for a little bit, you'll know that people like to say 380, or even you can bring 22 into the mix here, is that 380 is not very effective. A lot of people say that. I know personally a lot of women think that 9mm is a little snappy, so they prefer to shoot 380. Like the 365 that I like to carry from Sig Sauer. They make one in both calibers, and I know women tend to prefer 380. Even some people make the argument that 22 LR isn't enough and 380 isn't enough, so like 9mm is like the basic level for some people. I am a firm believer that you should carry what you're comfortable with. At the end of the day, I know people, there's a lady at my work that has every contraption on her keychain. She's got pepper spray, a little baton, a taser. She has everything but a gun. And if you're comfortable carrying a 22, if that's what gets you to carry, then by all means, I'm 100% for you carrying a 22. At the end of the day, 22 is better than nothing. Some people around the gun community will say, like, and yes, obviously, I mean, by looking at these rounds, a 9mm packs more of a punch than a 22. But a lot of the times, people get so adamant about not carrying a 22 that the person they're talking to just ends up not carrying at all. So I'm a firm believer, carry what you're comfortable carrying. If you're comfortable carrying a 22 short, again, it's better than nothing. Some people get turned off by guns because, you know, they think that, oh, you should be carrying 9mm, but when that person shoots 9mm, they think it's way too much of a gun, so they just end up not carrying at all. So like I said, carry what you want to carry. I think it's a silly debate between the two, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's about it. Next up, I'm going to put two on the table here, because again, they're very, very similar. This is 38 Special, and this is 357 Magnum. I'm putting those together because if you're familiar, 357 Magnum guns can shoot 38 Special. 38 Special guns cannot shoot 357. I have a little Taurus that shoots 357. Now, they don't look like they're very different. However, the 38 Special out of a small framed gun like I have is very pleasant to shoot, and I would even consider carrying it. 357, although it doesn't look like much, is a world of a difference And the ammo I have is only 30 grains difference. I have a 130 versus a 160 grain. So it's only 30 more grains for the 357, but it is way, way more of a punch than the 38 special. So I love 38 special. It's another fun. I have a lot of big caliber guns, so sometimes these smaller gun calibers are they're refreshing and they're very fun to shoot. Next up is another caliber that I love to talk about on this channel. This is 7.62 Nagant, or 7.62 by 38 rimmed. What's interesting about it is that the bullet is in the casing. This is another one, like as soon as I saw this cartridge, I had to buy the gun. I have an old World War II Russian Nagant revolver. It's a model 1895, and how it works is, when you cock the hammer back, the cylinder will slide forward and will actually push the casing out of the, push the bullet out of the casing into the cylinder, or into the barrel, and then that way it fires like that. It creates a nice tight seal on the barrel and the cylinder, and it is actually the only suppressible revolver because of that seal that it creates. It is just a wonky looking round. I don't know if the gun's old or if I'm just a terrible shot, but I don't seem to have any luck with this. Again, like I said, it could even be the ammo, I don't know. But I cannot hit anything with that gun. Like I said, it could be the gun, could be me, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's not me. Next up is the 40 Smith & Wesson. This is another round that has a lot of controversy, strictly because guns about the same size, as you'll see between 40 and 9mm, is that 40, it's thicker, so there is a bigger bullet there, but it obviously can hold less than a 9mm. So a gun that can hold about, so like my Glock 27, for example, can only hold 9 rounds of 40, whereas like my 365, which is smaller than the 40, or smaller than the Glock 27, can hold like 12 with about the magazine extension that's about the same size as the 27. The argument here is, while this is a bigger bullet, a lot of the times the ballistics look extremely similar to 9mm, so 40 doesn't really, it's kind of dying if it's not already dead yet. Strictly because 9mm you can have more capacity and about the same ballistics. Me personally, I think 40 is it's another fun round. Like I said, I have the Glock 27, so it's a smaller gun, so you get a nice little oomph out of it. Just a fun cartridge in my opinion. I don't hate it, but I'm definitely, like I said, it's hard to top the 365 in my opinion. So that's what I always end up carrying. Next up, we're going to start rapidly getting fatter here. That is 10mm. And the funny story I have with 10mm is, if you look at 9mm versus 10mm, they're only 1mm apart, and they don't really look too much different. However, 9mm is around 115 grain, while the 10mm is around 180 grain. So it doesn't look very different. So the gentleman, I have a Glock 20 that was lightly used. The gentleman said, "Oh, it's only 1 more millimeter than a 9mm, so let me get that." He took it out to the range, and 10mm is, again, it's another fun cartridge in my opinion, but I guess it was too much for this gentleman to handle, so he went back and returned it after shooting, like, I think he said he shot a box of, he shot 50 rounds through it, and then returned the gun. So 10mm is another fun one. It definitely packs a lot more punch than 9mm, but alright, so next up we have 44 Special. Now, if you have a 44 Magnum, you can shoot 44 Special. If you have a 44 Special, you cannot shoot 44 Magnum. This guy, I have a Charter Arms in 44 Special, and it's actually meant to be carried. There's no external hammer on it, so you can't get it, like, one of the problems is in a jacket pocket or something, you could get the hammer caught. I think, now again, I have a smaller Charter Arms. That is way too much of a round for that tiny little gun. It's fun, but there's no way I would ever carry something like that. It is a lot of power for a small gun. Fun, but I would absolutely not carry it. Next up is another gun that doesn't, or another round that doesn't need much of an introduction. That is 45 ACP. Again, I feel like it's a good conversation to have, but some people get a little too serious between 45 and 9mm, the debate, in that I have a 1911 Kimber, and it is a lot of fun, but it only holds 8 rounds of 45, and it's a big gun. I cannot possibly conceal it on my body, but some people are diehard, 8 rounds of 45 is all you need. And a gun that size, like a 1911, like my Glock 19 can hold 17. I have a +2 mag extension on it. I think in that instance, you are really limiting your capacity. So, me personally, I prefer 9mm, but there's some die-hard 45 fans out there that will, they don't tolerate any kind of slander towards it. This big boy, getting a little bigger here, that is 45 Colt. Now, traditionally, that was used out of a lever gun. My brilliant, well, I have a little Derringer. It's a 410/45 Derringer, and let me tell you, I would not recommend shooting that round out of a tiny little Derringer. This is a big, thick boy. It is 225 grains, the stuff I have. I've been shooting like 410 birdshot out of the Derringer just for fun. And my local gun shop had some 45 Colt, so I said, hey, why not try it out on the gun? And that was the biggest mistake I think I could have ever made. I shot about 15 rounds through it, between me and my friends, but that is way too much round for such a tiny gun. Alright, and then lastly, in my handgun list here, we're moving up to 50 caliber, and I'm going to put my next 2 rounds together because this is the debate I always like to have. And anytime I mention these 2 guns and or calibers, see if I can slide it down a little bit, I always mention these guys. Yes, this is a ginormous round. And it's a little unfair because that's like the biggest 500 I have. Let's see if I can kind of tee this up a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know. Alright, so that is 50 Action Express. That is the round that is commonly used by the Desert Eagle. And then this big boy is 700 grains of 500 Smith & Wesson. Now, anytime I mention these rounds, I have to compare them in the sense that 50 Action Express out of the Desert Eagle is a lot of fun. You will not go wrong with it. It is the perfect amount of power to recoil, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is I could shoot the Desert Eagle all day long. It gives you a nice concussion, nice amount of recoil. You really feel like you're shooting 50 caliber. But at no point does it hurt your hand. At no point does it become overwhelming. It is lots and lots of fun. The 500 Magnum, or 500 Smith & Wesson. Is it technically 500 Magnum? I don't know. 500 Smith & Wesson is what we'll go with. It is way too much. This is 700 grain, and You will regret your life choices after shooting one of these rounds. For me, it just absolutely tears up the palm of my hand. Now, the 500 has a lot of different grains you can shoot. Kentucky Ballistics just came out with a 600 grain. I bet you that's still way too much. The lightest stuff I have is 275 grain, and even that's borderline enjoyable. But again, you can only shoot like a couple rounds, in my opinion, before my hand starts to hurt. Whereas, again, that's 275 grains for the Smith & Wesson. The Hornady is 300 grains for their 50 Action Express, and like I said, I could shoot that all day long, one-handed. My non-dominant hand, one-handed. I could upside down. It is just an absolute blast. Whereas the 500, I have a 3 3/8 inch 500 Magnum, and way too much. Way too much. Alright, so that's all I have to offer for the handgun rounds. I'm going to do a little bit of rearranging on my boxes over here. Alrighty, so while I'm in between handgun and rifle, I thought I would do some honorable mentions here. I actually kind of forgot about shotgun for a second. Not that these will, or maybe I'll just put them up here. This is 410, and then this is obviously 12 gauge if you're unfamiliar. Just kind of slide those bad boys. Totally mess up everything, but you know, there. It's kind of impressive how those two are about the same size. 410, like I said, it can be shot out of. Traditionally, those are shotgun calibers. For me, 410, I have a Taurus Judge and a Derringer that shoot that. Obviously, just 12 gauges shotguns. I use that for hunting. I'm an avid dove hunter. So my first up, and some of these calibers will look very similar. This one you're actually probably mistaken. This is actually, if it will focus, maybe it won't, I don't know. This is actually 222. You're probably familiar with the next caliber that's on my list, but I guess I could just put them side by side here real quick. This is 5.56, or also 223. If you'll notice, they are very, very similar. The 222 is a varmint round. I have a little Savage bolt action that shoots it. Whereas your 5.56 is what you traditionally think of when shooting like an AR-15 style gun. Again, very thin, very fast-moving rounds. Next up is another. I like AKs and ARs about equally, so I had to get an AK that was chambered in 5.45. That's traditionally your AK-74s. It is a very pleasant round to shoot. I could shoot it all day. Like I said, a lot of fun. And again, they're all very comparable. They're thinner rounds, so that way you can hold a lot of them, but at the same time, definitely pack a punch. Next up is the 300 Blackout. Now, traditionally, that is a round that is it is best used when suppressed. If you have a suppressor on your 300 Blackout, it really likes that. For me, it's a fun AR round. Like I said, for me, a lot of these rounds I just use for fun at the range, but that round right there is mainly used for suppressors. Next up, we have the most common AK round, which is also, again, very similar. This is 7.62 by 39, and I'm trying to remember, 300 Blackout was it's actually 7.62 by, off the top of my head. They're very, very similar. So 300 Blackout is just a name for it. So like the 500 Smith & Wesson, it's technically 12.7, which is 50 caliber, by 41, I believe, off the top of my head. But 500 Magnum's just the common name. So 300 Blackout is just the name for it, but its actual dimensions is 7.62, just like the AK round there. Very, very common round. A lot of AKs shoot it. Next up, this is 12.7 by 42 millimeter, also known as 50 Beowulf. Now, your traditional AR can hold about 30 rounds of 5.56. However, the AR that I have that shoots that can only hold 10 rounds. It is just a very big, chunky round. My shoulder can only handle so much of it, but it is overall, it's a fun caliber. Not fun on the wallet, but it's a fun caliber to shoot from time to time. Next up is, I'll put them together. We have 7.62 by 51 and 308. Now, if you're unfamiliar, these two rounds are almost identical, but a 308 can shoot 7.62 by 51. A 7.62 by 51 gun cannot shoot 308. And traditionally, the 51 is it's more of a full metal jacket. That's more for like your SCAR, your AR, that kind of thing. Whereas a 308 has a soft tip because traditionally it is more of a hunting round. But again, they are pretty much identical. I mean, they're extremely, extremely similar. All right, next up, I guess we'll do this guy next. This is 4570. For me, when I think of 4570, I think of a lever gun. And my thought process was to actually get a lever gun at one point. But then I thought, how much 4570 am I really going to want to sit there and shoot, rack another one, shoot, rack another one. So I actually, having never shot 4570 before, I actually got a Henry single shot. And let me tell you, that is one of the most fun guns I have. It is, and again, when you think of a, like single action guns, just because of how they're designed, they do have more recoil than, say, so I'll use the Barrett as the example here, a little early, but a bolt action 50 BMG will have more recoil than a semi-auto, just because of the way it's designed. The recoil is absorbed differently than like a bolt action. So the single shot has a little more recoil, but it is, oh my gosh, it is fun. It rocks you in a way that it's not painful. So like, going back to these guys, like the recoil on this is painful, whereas the recoil on this is good. It's exciting, it's fun. So 4570 out of that Henry, it is one of the most fun guns I have. I could shoot that thing all day long, and it is just an absolute, like, literal blast. It's a great amount of power. Moving on in the world, we have 303 British. This is another caliber that at the time I didn't know about. I have an old World War I Lee Enfield that shoots it, and it still shoots great, actually. The magazine's not the best, but like I really have to like single shot it because the magazine spring's done. But for the most part, it's a very fun gun. A lot of power behind it. It is no slouch, but a lot of fun. Next up, I have 7mm Mauser, which is slightly longer. Where are my rounds going to start? I might have to shift them over a little bit. Do a light shift here. There we go. I had an old... Traditionally, when you think of 7mm Mausers, you think of old, like, bolt-action war guns. I had an old Spanish Mauser. However, it was a project gun. I did buy a box of ammo for it. And there's 2 gunsmiths around my area, one of which I'm related to, and then one at my local gun shop. They are both extremely booked up. So I bought the gun about, oh god, it's been over a year ago now. I was supposed to take it to them. Really all it needed was like some head spacing work and just it just needed some light work. It was nothing crazy, but it did need a little bit of work. And for a full year, both of my gunsmiths were busy, and after sitting on it for a year, I decided to just sell it because they couldn't get to it. So I still have the ammo, so I'll still throw it up there as a comparison. I'll probably buy like another Mauser one day, but for now, I just have a box of ammo. Next up, we have 7.62 by 54R. Traditionally, when you think of this round, you think of like Mosin Nagants. I have a, it's the PSL. It looks like a Dragunov. Mine's a true Romanian PSL, but this is actually some old Russian ammo, I thought, which was pretty cool. I don't think it's actually stamped with any. What is it, 73? It made in 1970s Russian ammo. Pretty cool stuff. That's another round. It packs a pretty mean punch, but definitely no slouch. Alright, and now the moment you've all been waiting for. I really need some, even after the last video, show you the different calibers that I own. I really need some more intermediate cartridges between this and up. I need like a 300 Win Mag. But regardless, next up is the completely uncomparable. It actually doesn't even fit on my... Oh my gosh, it's just ridiculous. That is 50 BMG. My hand is a reference here. It is super ridiculously big. This one's actually a tracer. It's a red tip. What I always recommend, and what I do at least, you can do what you wish. 50 BMG, like I have some nice Hornady stuff, but it's about $8 a round. This was from an old Browning machine gun. It's 100 rounds of linked ammo. It's 4 full metal jackets, and then the 5th round is a tracer. And it was linked like it's meant to go into the Browning. I just de-linked it. That was only $3 a round. Much more enjoyable on the wallet. But if you've never had the chance to fire 50 BMG, it is quite the experience. Let me do my little... I guess I could just do this. You gotta compare the 22 short to the 50 BMG. It is just, this is such a fun round to shoot. Out of the Barrett, it is just a completely different experience from any other gun I have and any other caliber I have. So yeah, like I said, I definitely need some more intermediate cartridges here. I mean 500 Magnum and 22 short are pretty much the smallest and biggest for handguns. The rifle rounds need some work, but I hope you all enjoyed a little rifle comparison and handgun comparisons here. Just showing you like how vastly different some ammo is. We have some that have the bullet in the casing, some that are like really small, some that are really thin, and then some that are just fat. So like I said, hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any other ideas, let me know. And I guess I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.